question I get asked a lot: who is a must pull in Blue Archive? Azusa. Welcome on in, Kyrios here, and today we're going to talk about Azusa, the queen of red raids. Explosive unit, absolutely amazing. First, before we get started, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, come join us on the Discord. Links are down below. Follow me on TapTap. We got a bunch of other games to play, but let's go. Yes, boys and girls. All right, here we go. Azusa, someone I've been super excited for. Let's go over her gear real quick. She has gloves, the band, and then watch, which is good. So she's going to be a crit machine on an AR, so not a sniper rifle, so she attacks decently fast. Now, she is middle. I'm not a big fan of middles. Their AI is super potato most times, but that's okay. And then she also has indoor affinity being positive, outdoor affinity being negative, and then a neutral affinity to urban, which is good for the raids she's going to be good in. Now, we did max her the 5-star here. You can see her attack is pretty low, but for a middle, it's actually pretty okay. Decent amount of HP. Higher than normal crit rate. Crit rate usually is around the 190 for sniper rifles, depending on who you're looking at. A decent amount of evasion, but shouldn't really be taking hits anyways. And in everything else is pretty typical per part of the course. Now, let's get into the skills. Yes. Her EX skill hits for 2,023% damage on a single target. Woo-wee! That's a big hit. That's a big hit. Just to put that in perspective, Iori does 666 damage 3 times. So, but it is a 3-cost skill. But this is such a big hit. Now, let's bring her to her bread and butter. Her bread and butter is this normal skill. Every 30 seconds deals 468% damage to a single enemy. It reduces their defense by 24% for 20 seconds. So every 20 seconds out of 30 seconds, she's going to be doing that defense down, which is really good. This is really the main reason you bring her. I mean, in addition that she does a lot of damage on top of it. But critical rate, we do love critical rate. And then I think her priority would be EX skill, normal skill. And then it's tossed up between passive skill and sub skill for me. I would have to run the numbers, so we will run the numbers later. But I want to say her sub skill because just additional damage in general is always good, because when you don't crit, you don't get additional damage. So I'm going to say her sub skill is better. Now, depending on when you guys are watching this video, she does use the Trinity book. So we don't have a ton of students that have used Trinity books up until this point. So go ahead into that total shop and buy some of those purples, because you probably are sitting on resources that you can almost instantly get her to an EX5. And then your probable area is sitting on these resources if you've started the game at the same time to almost get her to a level 10 right out the gate. I think I almost do. So make sure you buy those purples and then save enough for the next rotation as the raid happens and buy another set of purples, and you should pretty much be there, I would think. You can kind of delay on the rest of these, level them up if you have additional materials. But those are the two I would focus on. And then let's look at her unique weapon again. Raises her indoor affinity to SS, so it means she does 40% damage instead of 20% additional damage. And then her weapon skill increases crit rate even further, which is good. So that kind of like compensates it out, that where she gets almost 50% additional crit. But absolute monster. Absolute monster. Let's go take a look at the raids she's good at. All right, let's talk about the 2 raids she's good in. Hieronymus and Chitin. Now, she's mainly used in Hieronymus, and especially in extreme Hieronymus. But she can't be usable in Chitin. She could also be technically usable in Bina if you're 2-teaming, or if you're really just stacking your Maki. But you're probably going to bring Summer Azusa instead. Now, that being said, I mean, I don't know of a single team that can clear Hieronymus Extreme 1 team without her. Now, just looking at her affinity for Hieronymus, you can see that Hieronymus is indoors and urban, and she's great indoors and neutral urban, which means she's going to be good for both of those locations. Okay, so now looking at Chitin, now she's really good for the second part of Chitin. I mean, she's technically good for phase 1 of Chitin as well, kind of nuke down some of those targets. But let's look at her affinities. For Chitin, you're going to have an outdoors and an urban area where she's going to be bad outdoors and okay in urban. Now, I would use her. I mean, a lot of people are going to end up 2-teaming for extreme for a while until we get a lot of other units. But there's other units you can use here if you're trying to 1-team it. All right, I just want to talk about where Azusa is also useful. So now, typically in missions and bounties, you're going to want to bring a lot of AoE, right? But she can definitely be very useful for some of these bounties and some of these missions where you need to kill bosses. So she's going to be especially useful on Desert Railroad. She's going to have that Trinity bonus. Since there's not a lot of Yako students, I mean, you could use a lot of Mystic students to fill that role, but you'll be mainly using Trinity. So that could help you out a lot right there. She can also help you take down some of these other missions as well, especially when there's a lot of light units. Now, once again, she is single target, but when you get the bosses, she's going to help you nuke down those bosses pretty good. Now, she can help you on some of the heavier fights as well, which you can see I haven't even done most of them. But some of these are really annoying. And so she could be useful against a lot of those as well. So she gets a pretty good rating for a lot of the content in Blue Archive. All right, guys, hopefully that helped you out. We're going to trim down the review just a little bit. We still judge everyone on all the different content and stuff like that. And Azusa's not very good in PvP. I didn't really touch on that in this video, but I think that should be assumed. So what is my final pull rating? My final pull rating is going to be a 5 out of 5 or a 4.5 out of 5, depending on the way you want to look at it, considering she's kind of useless in PvP. But she's needed everywhere. She's needed especially for those raids. And if you really want to compete in extreme mode, you're really going to need her. And she brings a lot to the table. She really does. Her, Koharu, Summer Azusa, we have a lot of really good students that you have to try for all of them. I mean, seriously, like they're all key students that you're going to use a lot of. So we're gonna do something a little bit different as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm gonna put the live 2D at the end. Let me know if you actually like me doing that. If you don't, I'll split the live 2Ds off into their own video. But I do appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Once again, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next video.
Kawaii no wa nani mo waruku nai kedo, kawaii nuigurumi ga ippai na no wa ii kedo, nanda ka hazukashii. 絶対にからかってるでしょ、先生。まあ別に心底嫌ってわけじゃないけど。かわいい。この子ずっと会いたかった。